Square one. Tried to leave myself behind. Looking for a better place, not to stay alone. Gain our trust and you chose to break it. Ask for truth but you only fake it. Thought you said what we had was sacred. It's all lies, all lies. I was broken and isolated, but inside held the fire waiting. Not a word that you say can save this, so don't try. Cause this time you crossed the line. Funny how the tables turned. Didn't think I'd go this far, but here we are, the end. Now you're just a lesson learned, a slowly fading memory, so I can breathe again. Gain our trust and you chose to break it. Ask for truth but you only fake it. Thought you said what we had was sacred. It's all lies, all lies. I was broken and isolated, but inside held the fire waiting. Not a word that you say can save this, so don't try. Cause this time you crossed the line. This time you crossed the line. You crossed the line. You crossed the line. This time you crossed the line.
Getting hype when I aim up, elevating that game up, stepping up to the competition. Only first place, yeah, that's how I'm living. I'm with it till they digging up my grave.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another week of the Venus Mercury League. We are in week 3 of 7 of our round robin play. I'm one of your casters, Ellie, also known as Ellie of the Veil, and I'm joined by the ever animated Beky Bell. Beky, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. You're looking great, Mama. You're looking great.
We're looking both very great in our
So we are. Yeah.
VML merch.
Let's do the move.
Hold up. Oh, mine was caught on my.
It's okay.
on my head.
We're still hard looking. You know? Yeah, we got our VML swag. You can get yours too if you go to MTG Pro Shop/VML. Beky, tell me that's right.
Yep, that sounds right to me.
That's right.
I think you nailed it.
Hey, so we have another great week of matches. Before we get into that, we'd like to thank our sponsors that make all of this happen. So if you're new here, the Venus Mercury League is a league that supports marginalized genders. We are brought to you in conjunction with Nerd Rage Gaming. Channel Fireball also sponsors, and huge sponsor, Wizards of the Coast, supporting us. They are the ones supplying us with the grand prize to the winner, which is a invite to a future championship. So last season we had Hogpog win it. Caroline's been a couple times. It's pretty dope. So first place here, like I said, invite to a future Magic esports event in the 2021-2022 season. I kind of want that to be me. I'm not going to lie. I'm actually trying. Also gets a 1-year subscription to CFB Pro. And then top 8, we also get invite to an MTG Arena qualifier weekend. Some more CFB Pro subscriptions. Oh, and did I mention there's a cash prize that's split up between top 16 in addition to all that good stuff. So we mean business around these parts, or at least I do, because I want it.
Oh.
I want all of it. Beky?
Well, I think we're all in the business of meaning business,
That's right.
especially all
That's
of
right.
us casters and people who help put on the VML together. It's very exciting. This is our biggest cash prize pool yet, and some of the biggest stakes. We're very happy that Wizards of the Coast has gotten us these invites to Pro Tour adjacent events, and it's very exciting, very hype, and yeah, giving prizing. We have 64 players, and we prize all the way down to top 16. So, I mean, enough talking. Let's get into this. Yeah.
Yeah, because we have quite an exciting metagame to look at. Becky, you are raring, ready to go. So let me just
I'm
hand
so
you
excited.
the reins and supply our wonderful viewers with your insight.
All right. So every week, I am the person who puts together this metagame slide. A lot of the analyst friends that I know don't like how we do the metagame slide. They don't like the pie chart, but I think their reason for not liking it is because I'll usually just like do a chunk that is other. And that's when there are a bunch of like one or fewer copies of a lot of decks. And usually that makes up about 20-ish out of our 64 decks. So it's just a white chunk up at the side that is a bunch of one-ofs. However, we only have 3 one-ofs. This is the fewest one-ofs I have seen in my 3 seasons of making metagame slides for the VML. So that kind of leads me into this question that I have for you, Ellie. What do you think is a kind of what do you think defines a healthy standard format?
Okay, do you want my real answer or do you want my smart answer? They're the same.
Ooh, oh, okay. Let's do, well, if they're the same, then either. Hit me
It's
with
the
it.
one where mono red can dominate.
All right. Well, Mono Red has been doing pretty well in the standard format. It was at the top of the metagame last week. It's only knocked it down 1 spot this time by Sultai Ultimatum. And I like to think that a healthy standard format is a lot of different decks. And we're seeing this time, while it's not a lot of different decks, we don't have like 21 of random decks off on the top left-hand side there of that pie chart. We are having a lot of people on similar archetypes and like good chunks of people all bringing a certain strategy to the table and not just a bunch of fringe players. So I think that this is probably one of the most healthy weeks of standard we've had in the VML for a long time. And it's really exciting to see like the most played deck is only 11 decks. We've been sometimes where 30 people have submitted the same deck. I'm looking at you, Jessica Yorian. When we had like Luca and Droop Trawler, everyone was submitting that. But this is looking really healthy, and I don't know if it's because of Strixhaven. I don't know if it's because of Kaldheim, but I think it's really cool to see the way that this has started to shape up and really become definitive and nicely defined with all of these very different healthy things that seem to match up pretty well against each other. So that's me being very excited about the metagame slide this week, and I think that this is so beautiful.
Well, I'm loving the energy, and I'm pretty much with you. I mean, looking at that metagame slide, it's like you mentioned, like a lot of these things do have good matchups against each other. Even though Sultai Ultimatum's most played, it's not mono red, as we've seen time and time again, can beat it. You know, but mono red also has a really tough time, or can have a tough time against Gruul aggro adventure strategies. And then you have blue red or blue black rose, which kind of can be everything and sometimes nothing. It's a surprise.
Yeah, sometimes it loses to itself, to be honest.
I think that's a pretty great way to put it. But before we get into the rest of this, we're going to take a look at our player slides. But before we do that, we're going to jump into the college clash. Beky, back to you.
Let's this is our college clash. So every one of our 64 players has registered themselves to one of the 5 Strixhaven colleges, and at the end we're going to take the top 3 players and we're going to give them a t-shirt from the MTG Pro Shop that is according to the college that they have represented across this season. And so we're going to take a look here at all of the players who are doing the best in their in their colleges right now. Kind of looks a lot of the same as last week. At this point, we're very early in the season. This could change tremendously between now and the end. So very exciting to see. The top player for Prismari is Blazin. Top player for Quandrix is Colleen. Top player for Lorehold being Hogpog. Top player for Silverquill is Shadowcloak, and top player for Witherbloom is Annabellius. So those are the top 5 players going into week 3, and stick around and take a look next week to see who's on top of their college into week 3.
I'm hoping it's me next week, but we'll see how it goes. I've submitted a heater this week. I've submitted the heater this week. I'm yet to play, but it's gonna be spicy.
Okay, well, I do know how some of these end up, so
no
interesting.
Spoilers.
No spoilers. I'm being ominous. I do know. I'm like the evil overlord that's like sitting on the like giant throne stroking a cat or a mustache. That's me right now.
Do you want to borrow my cat? Would you like to borrow my cat for that? Okay, well I'll ship him. I'll ship him to you. With that said, let's take a look at our first match. Take a look at our the deck list. We have Sky Sweeney here on mono white aggro, a relatively new deck to the foray, and quite interesting. What can you tell us about this, Beky?
So this is we have a lot of monocolored strategies that are starting to like dominate the format, mostly because of the existence of the Snowlands from Kaldheim and a card called Faceless Haven. Usually a lot of aggro decks against control decks and even mid-range decks are going to struggle to beat out things like sweepers, a lot of targeted removal, but Faceless Haven and the ability to have a land that is going to dodge a lot of sorcery speed removal as well as sweepers allows these monocolored aggro decks to have a great finisher built into them, as well as this really cool card called Elite Spellbinder that I'm very excited to see if this mono white deck is going to really kind of scuff up the hands of the opponents, and I'm hoping that it'll be able to do some cool things, though in this matchup it maybe isn't the best card, but that's just how it goes sometimes. Sometimes you put a card in your deck expecting to play against something, and maybe it won't be the best, but it still makes the top 60 because you're trying to beat a certain portion of the format, and I feel like that is a good place for Elite Spellbinder to be. But I'm excited to see this deck from Sky.
Well, Sky has taken their matchup into account. They're thinking about for them, it's about minimizing the impact of Embercleave, which maybe Elite Spellbinder can do, maybe not. We will definitely see that play out, I'm sure. And then Elder excuse me, sorry, I lost track of what I was saying. But why don't we just jump into our next player?
Yeah, here now we're gonna see the real reason that Elder Gargaroth is going to be a scary thing that the mono white deck is going to have to worry about. Elder Gargaroth is gonna have the ability to come in post board games and kind of just make creatures in combat, which is going to be really difficult for the mono white deck to have to deal with. Chantel was not able to get back to us on questions this week, but we did find out that she is pretty into the whole Lorehold theme because of Indiana Jones and Lara Croft. Even though she is going to be coming into this week playing Gruul, we find a lot of the people who are into the red-white aggro sort of strategies of Lorehold do quite like these Gruul strategies as well.
It's hard not to like a heavy-hitting deck, honestly. And I think there's enough red in here to be like Lorehold.
Yeah, I'm with you. I definitely agree. And a good old Embercleave finisher as well as the good little Goldspan Dragons. I guess, okay, Nicole and I have discussed this lots. We've decided that we think that Goldspan Dragon is actually really tiny.
I think that is a very interesting statement that I did not expect to hear at all in my life, I think. But honestly, looking at the art, you may be onto something because proportionally it doesn't look that big on whatever it's on.
It's either huge or really small, and it's kind of hard to tell. And I like imagining it as a tiny little dragon that like carries around a single gold coin as its treasure.
I think that I'm not sure if I was Goldspan Dragon, I would appreciate that image, but I'm sure if I was Goldspan Dragon, I would be a tiny dragon carrying around treasure. So maybe there's some truth there. Why don't we jump into the match?
Yeah, let's get into it. Oh, ready. All right. Looks like we have Sky B. Sweeney on the left-hand side, the bottom hand that we're going to be looking at versus Chantel Campbell. We do have the wrong image for Chantel. Nope, never mind. All fixed. Thank you. Beautiful.
we're gonna see Sky had to take a mulligan. It looks like they're gonna have to unfortunately take another one because they've had 2 no landers, which is just unfortunately not gonna work there.
Ooh, all
Okay,
right.
it's playable, quite
getting there
playable.
now.
We got lands and spells, and it looks like a fairly good curve. I believe that's a 1, 2, and 3. Sounds good to me.
Yeah, and Seasoned Hollowblade, one of the better cards actually against the Gruul deck. A lot of the removal isn't going to be able to actually get rid of Seasoned Hollowblade, and the 3 power is actually quite good against a lot of the cards in the Gruul deck. We do see the little dog being put back onto the bottom of the deck, perhaps just saying the 1/1 is never going to get through. Scribe
but
Bug
the-
anyway.
I love the Scrybug. Scrybug's going to come down. Unfortunately, it doesn't pair up well against that 1/2 elf there. So we're going to see first damage go to Chantal.
Yeah, the Sentinel with a 1/2 body for 1 mana, doing pretty good things against the 1/1, but Selfless Savior going to be able to crunch back on the opposite direction. Of course, you mentioned earlier the 1, 2, 3 curve here, the Seasoned Hollowblade coming down on this turn too, and hopefully we'll be able to do some really great things. The Sentinel not attacking into the Seasoned Hollowblade, I think, is actually a really interesting thing. Sorry that I'm taking away from some play-by-play here. I want to highlight that it's interesting that we see Chantel is saying the existence of the 1/2 body of the Jaspara Sentinel is worth more than taking a card out of the hand or the 1 damage. So, but we see now after Elite Spellbinder allows us to look at Chantel's hand that the reason is because we only have 2 pieces of action, and that was the Essica's Chariot that was in the hand and the Sentinel that is on the battlefield. The rest of what Chantel has are lands. So the way that you're valuing the things that are in play and the bit of action in your hand changes tremendously.
Well, you said earlier in the matchup or when we were looking at the deck list, that Elite Spellbinder might not do anything. But here we see it's doing a pretty big thing because Campbell can't put down that Essica's Chariot now for at least 2 more turns because of Spellbinder's effect, which is quite a big slowdown for this Gruul deck. And so far, looking at the board, even though Campbell was able to get in for 3, this is starting to look really bad for Campbell. Just looking at how the board states compare with each other. So we're seeing a big attack, no fear. Sky's actually definitely doing the aggro role pretty well.
Yeah, that Rimrock Knight unable to block. Kind of exciting to see these 2 Skyclave apparitions being drawn, only to be a little bit deterred by the fact that we have 2 Faceless Havens in play. Not being able to tap for white mana means that we can't actually play either of these Skyclave apparitions until we draw another Plains as a source of white mana. But a little bit of an attack here.
Yep, a little attack here. Is there a Embercleave really worth worrying about?
There's only 1 card we don't know about. Even if there is an Embercleave, you're taking 8 damage here. I don't think it's worth losing the All Seed of Life's Bounty over. I probably wouldn't have blocked personally.
Oh, interesting move here. We're going to sacrifice the dog to keep the All Seed around, valuing. Just going to value All Seed more there. It was not the second card in hand was not an Embercleave, but it was an Essica's Chariot. So now, unfortunately, not another Plains there for Sky. Like you said before, not being able to cast those Skyclave apparitions might be pretty important here. Luckily, Sky does have a life total on their side because they're about to put Campbell down to that's right. How could we forget? Has reach. Has reach.
A really little bit of a secret reach on that 1 mana 1/2 body, but luckily we have this All Seed.
Yeah, so we're gonna see the All Seed give the Sentinel or give the Spellbinder protection, and another All Seed can come down. So not a complete loss there. At least got the reach creature out of the way.
Yeah, and heads up play to not attack with the Seasoned Hollowblade, as the Essica's Chariot can simply be crewed and block, and we would have to lose one of the cards in our hand. So just attacking with the Flyer. This Flyer should be able to connect pretty easily on the upcoming turn, so less of a concern. now, but this Esca's Chariot might be a little bit pesky to have to deal with on this mono white side if it's able to come across any number of times and just make a bunch of these little cat tokens that are going to be difficult for us to deal with on Sky's side.
Yeah, so we're going to see Eska make another cat. Probably no blocks here. Indeed. 4 is going to connect for Campbell. Maybe we're going to get we're still got ourselves a game. Looks like there's one more land in Campbell's hand, so she will be able to cast out Eska's Chariot next turn. But we're gonna see here, big boy come down, Love Struck Beast. Campbell's board looking a lot more formidable than it was a couple turns ago.
Oh yeah, this is starting to feel a little bit spooky. If you're on the side of Sky, we need a plains. Yes, pretty please.
Unfortunately, that was not the draw. Another Elite Spellbinder, which isn't really going to do much at this point except block.
We actually... Okay, so if we do attack with the Elite Spellbinder this turn and we spend the following turn blocking 5 and 4, we would only take 3 damage, go to 10, and we have lethal in the air next turn, assuming that a reach creature doesn't come down. So I do think it is the correct play this turn to be attacking with the single Elite Spellbinder, putting Chantel to 6 and saying, handle my 2 3/1 flyers, or you are dead next turn.
Well, Sky definitely seems like that is the play they are going to be making. Is there a way for Chantel to punish that, for Campbell to punish that aggression?
The best way would be having an Embercleave, honestly, and just making the blocks on Sky's side feel abysmal. Throwing an Embercleave onto this Lovestruck Beast would turn the tides in Chantel's favor extremely well.
We're going to see an all-out attack. Big swing here and another token made. Is there an Embercleave in hand?
I think if you're Sky, honestly, you just have to hope that there is not a Embercleave in Chantel's hand and block like it doesn't exist and just hope that it goes in your favor.
Well, we're seeing some kind of blocks being decided, how to mitigate damage. Or just remove some creatures. We will see what comes down.
Yeah, this is kind of an interesting choice to block. Definitely kind of going along with what I said and just like hoping that there isn't an Embercleave. Like I can't beat it anyway, so I might as well not try to even pretend like that exists. I'm going to play to how I can win. Thankfully, there is no Embercleave, and Sky only goes to 8. This Eska's Chariot is going to come down. A legend rule is going to happen, but some more cats will be made. But it does seem like with Chantel tapped out, the 2 Elite Spellbinders in the air are going to be a lethal attack here for Sky.
Well, here we go. Just moving right along to combat. Has lethal damage. Don't care. Swinging in. Gonna be game 1 for Sky. Very impressive play there. Very good. Very smart of them, I think, to just continue to stick with their plan, to be as aggressive as they can be with the resources that they had. So very heads up there. We're going to move into sideboards now. What should we really be thinking about in the sideboard?
This is a place where I haven't played a lot of the Gruul deck, and I haven't personally played a lot of the mono white deck, but going along with a lot of the things that I would normally think about when playing an aggro deck versus a mid-range deck, wanting a lot of removal or things to just like make the mid-range deck stumble. If you're playing an aggro deck, you want to be playing like 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop, or sometimes even 1-drop, 2-drop, 1-drop, 2-drop. For a lot of your turns, you aren't going to be wanting to play a lot of big creatures. That's just like not really where you're going to want to be going. You're going to be trying to make the mid-range deck stumble, because that if they're going to keep up with you, they need to be doing removal spell, removal spell, removal spell. But you want to be doing 2-for-1s as much as possible so that their 1-for-1 targeted removal spells mean a lot less.
All right. Well, we will see we will see about game 2. Can Chantel come back from that first game? Sky was quite disruptive, we saw, with the Spellbinder. slowed Chantel down. We have quite the hand here. Two
Yeah,
Maul of the Sky Claves.
That was a snap keep for Sky, and I'm sure they've played a lot more of the mono white deck than I have personally, but I'm a little intrigued by that being a snap keep. I think it's a little worrisome to have double Maul of the Skyclaves, but they aren't legendary, so perhaps it is actually going to be able to all be suited up onto this little doggo, and this doggo is going to be able to be hitting for a lot of damage. And if that's the plan, I'm excited to see it.
Well, we do see Sky's draws have been very kind to them. They drew that Skyclave apparition and the second selfless savior, which is smoothing out their gameplay quite nicely. On Chantel's end, we see a big play there. Essica's Chariot gonna clog up the board with some cats and potentially present a serious problem. If it were not for those Skyclaves in hand. So it'll be interesting here to see is what's Sky going to value more.
Yeah, it's also a little frustrating. Even you kind of have to get rid of the Essica's Chariot because you can't afford more tokens to be made on later turns. But that Essica's Chariot did still come down and did still make two tokens. So it's not like getting rid of this Essica's Chariot is like, phew, dodge that bullet. Like you still have more bullets coming at you in the form of 2/2 cats, which is kind of a funny image. Little cats that are fluffy as bullets. But anyway.
Yeah, especially interesting because looks like Chantel's going to keep throwing threats at Sky. And we see that there's a Lovestruck Beast. And here comes a dragon. A tiny, very Goldspan dragon.
That's so cute.
Chantel not holding back. Big eight damage coming across the board, putting Sky on the defensive here.
Yeah, nice block of these two cats. Selfless Savior gonna block and then be sacrificed to save the Skyclave apparition. Don't really want Chantel to be getting a 4/4 spirit token anytime soon. That would be quite unfortunate for our game plan. All right, this is kind of a rough place.
It is, right? We see that Sky's looking at a hand of 3 drops and only 4 mana. It's not able to double spell, which unfortunately for them, Chantel has no problem doing that with the mana accelerants that is available to her.
At least the Maul of the Skyclaves does give first strike. That is going to mean that this 4/4 now Skyclave apparition is going to be able to at least go toe-to-toe with this Goldspan dragon, and worst comes to worst, this Selfless Savior should be able to save Skyclave apparition from any funny business that Chantel might try to pull. But if there's an Ember Cleave on the side of Chantel, we still have quite a few things to worry about.
We're going to see, interesting. Chantel's just moving straight to main phase 2, going to cast a Lovestruck Beast, building her board even more.
This is a good draw.
For Sky. Wow, Giant Killer. Big deal here.
Giant Killer basically made to deal with the Gruul Adventures deck, as Giant Killer Chop Down is able to get rid of all of the things that are difficult for Sky's deck to be pushing through, meaning this Goldspan Dragon or this Lovestruck Beast are likely not long for this world.
Well, we're going to see that Giant Killer is going to take out the Goldspan Dragon. I think it's interesting to note that Sky's just doing this now instead of waiting on Chantel's turn. To me, I don't know what that signals to you, but to me, signaling that we want to get in damage or we want to remove threats. We're doing something.
Yeah,
we're not waiting for anything.
It is certainly interesting. I think one of the biggest things that I would if it was me playing, I would probably make the same play just to get this Giant Killer itself down onto the battlefield on the same turn and get through that Summoning Sickness phase so that we are able to activate the tap ability on later turns to be able to tap down things like this Lovestruck Beast and, again, then start being the aggressive deck that we're trying to be.
All right, now we don't know what the draw was for Chantel. I'm sure in Sky's position, what are the things they're the most scared of? Oh, we got
This
one
Lovestruck
5/5
Beast
to a deck.
attacking.
Oh!
Lovestruck Beast attacking is quite scary, especially because we've only thrown 5 power in front of it. If there is an Embercleave, I'm always scared of Embercleave. If there is to be an Embercleave, only
wow.
putting 5 power in front of it isn't going to mean that we're able to do anything about it. But thankfully, there isn't an Embercleave. Every single time I've been afraid of it, it's not really been a worry. And
Well,
go ahead.
nope. We're gonna see. That would unfortunately turn out to be a bad exchange for Chantel. But followed it up with an Escus Chariot. So I think Sky's still kind of on the defensive here, but might be turning the corner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there are only 2 cards in the hand of Chantal here, but the Escus Chariot is going to be a little frustrating as we've seen previously. Ooh, 2 Shatter Skull Smashings were in hand for Chantal. That's a big spell.
Yeah, Sky's immediately counting mana available to Chantal because that could mean the death of several creatures here. So looks like by my count, available mana for it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
7 if we're including 7, 8 if we're including Jaspara Sentinel and the 2 treasures, I believe.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Are we? The treasures count for 1, I believe, unless Goldspan Dragon's on the field.
Yeah, we have 5 land, 2 treasures.
Oh, I meant for the X.
Okay. Yes, then the X is looking to be 5. I see. Yeah, so I agree that the Small of the Skyclaves has to come down now because we have to give some of these smaller creatures bigger badonkadonks on the side of Sky so that they don't get taken out by the Shatter Skull Smashing.
Yeah. Oh, interesting here. We're going to see that Maul go on to the Giant Killer. Killer here. So
okay, that is actually really an interesting decision to me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to decide. I think that the reasoning has to be trying to have as many, flying attackers as possible and start putting the pressure onto Chantel's life total. But this is a very scary, looking at the attack that is going to come back Sky's way, seems a little bit scary, especially knowing that there is a removal spell in hand and we could potentially this turn be taking a hit for 8+ damage.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Because it looks, by my count, Chantel can take out 2 of Sky's creatures with all that mana, and then swing in, like you said, for a lot of damage. So we'll see what Chantel decides to do here. This is a pretty big deal because Skyclave Apparition also has an Escus Chariot exiled under it. So once Apparition leaves the battlefield, if it dies, Chantel also gets a 4/4 out of it. An even better exchange.
Yeah, extremely kind of worrisome here. But okay, if we do tap we did tap to deal 6 damage to both the Giant Killer and the Skyclave Apparition. So this is probably going to be an attack for 6. I imagine. I can't imagine that Sky decides to block, especially because we don't profitably block much. Oh, that hurts.
Yeah, that's a big deal. So gonna decide what to do. Doesn't look like we're gonna block here. Hope to draw something. Is there something that Sky can draw to get them back in the game? I bet you if there was, it would be a Plains.
That's what I was about to say, almost the exact same thing. If there is something we can do to come back into it, Plains isn't going to do it, and Chantel's going to take down game 2.
All right, well, that sends us into a game 3. This has been quite the back and forth between the mono white aggro deck and the Gruul aggro deck. Is there something that Sky can do to be more disruptive? Because we just saw that game them be buried under kittens in the worst way.
That is pretty much exactly what just happened. I maybe would have liked to see the other 2 Seasoned Hollowblades come into the deck. It looked like Sky only submitted having 1 in their deck, and I think that Seasoned Hollowblade is one of the better creatures to have against the Gruul deck. Again, Seasoned Hollowblade, very good against targeted removal. And I think trying to have it to just like push through a lot of the bigger creatures on the side of Chantel is a good way to go. But again, I believe that Sky likely has just played more of this matchup than I have and knows what they're doing.
Oh, absolutely. Undoubtedly. They played very well to their outs, did what they could. But sometimes Gruul just overwhelms you. But they have another chance to come back. Look at this hand, which was a snap keep that I am behind.
Yeah, I'm on this snap keep for sure. The last one I was a little bit dubious of, but this one I think is a spot on snap keep for sure. And this Durannith Magistrate should be quite the little bit of a stickler in Chantel's plan.
Yeah, so we're going to see, Durannith Magistrate or Luminarch Aspirant are the options, but we're going to see that Magistrate come down, prevent any creatures from coming in the battlefield from anywhere other than Chantel's hand.
Mm-hmm. Very good against a lot of the adventure creatures. And maybe it will be something that, in Chantel's eyes, has to go as soon as possible, but doesn't look like it as Magda comes down on Chantel's side. Ooh.
We got some disruption in the form of Elite Spellbinder, but nothing to take, I believe. We got some things. We got some heaters in there. There's some choices.
Yeah, very, very true. This is a little bit spooky to look at because you're kind of like, oh, these are all scary. I don't know what is the thing that I'm either So this, I'm talking over myself now. Okay. Sometimes when you're using these like duress abilities and you're having to pick a card, it's a little bit scary. Am I afraid of something that's going to come down next turn and is going to be an immediate threat, or am I afraid of something that is a later threat? And we saw even in Sky's player profile that they are afraid of Elder Gargaroth. So they're choosing to go for the Elder Gargaroth as the later threat is something that they're a lot more scared of than an immediate threat.
Yeah, I mean, as we saw, Sky does rely on flying threats, and Gargaroth puts an end to that. We're going to see an attack here from Chantel. Going to decide, though, block or no block. I believe there's a Rimrock Knight in hand, so we could be using this Magistrate here.
There is. It will be a trade, but we will then be able to play the Rimrock Knight at a later time. So an interesting block from Sky here, but does get the trade. So Magda is off the field at least, and Rimrock Knight going to be the follow-up play.
Yeah, back. We're gonna use that treasure token for a Sentinel there, stopping any funny business. Well, at least in the meantime.
Mm-hmm.
But Luminarch Aspirant comes down, gonna make that Spellbinder a little more chonky on the front end.
Yeah, at least now we can attack through the Jaspara Sentinel without the little bit of surprise reach being able to catch us there.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we have we're gonna be at 5 available mana. Oh, just a swing, just coming in, afraid of nothing.
Yeah, we know that there is an Ember Cleave in hand, so that is exactly what comes down with that 4 available mana and a big hit for 9 total damage here.
Looks like this is a race of the equipment. How is Sky going to get out of this?
Yeah, this is a little bit of a worrisome place. At least we know that if we take another 8 on this next turn, we only go to 3. Lurrus is able to block the Jaspara Sentinel. So we'd only be taking A unless the scariest thing I can imagine right now is that a haste creature would come down on Chantel's side. But it just looks like Magda is going to come down here. Does make Rimrock Knight into a 5/2, meaning that with the Ember Cleave, it is attacking for 10 total damage with that double strike.
Yeah, we're going to see that 10 damage come in, and we're some tough blocks for Sky. All right, so that's 7 damage.
Yeah, this at least saves us from if Chantel has like a Bone Crusher Giant in hand, she isn't going to be able to stomp Sky for the last point of damage that would be needed. So that actually is forcing a nice block there.
All right, Sky down to 4, very much in the last Ooh, and the roiling vortex is going to come down. If the pressure wasn't already intense enough, why not?
All right, this is hard now because now we're having to do some math. If we put the Maul of the Skyclaves onto Luris, comes a 6. Put the Luminarch Aspirant onto Luris, 7. We're attacking back. We'd go back up to 10. We can also play the Draneth Magistrate and block again. Only take 7 back, but then we would be taking 3. But if we attack, okay, we do have a lethal here. Oh no, because the Jaspar Sentinel has reach. So
Reach.
okay. Not quite. But if there was no reach, we would have lethal here.
Well, turns out 1/2s can be 1/2s with reach, secret reach, pretty disruptive in this match, pretty key. Looks like now Sky has to kind of figure out how to mitigate damage as best as possible.
Oh, also there is a treasure token that can make a red mana to stop life gain off with Rolling Vortex. So we can't actually gain life off of Luris.
That is a very good point.
So maybe the plan now is just to play defensively. I think I actually do quite like putting the Maul of the Skyclaves onto something that can block the first strike damage of the Rimrock Knight. Because if you have something with first strike damage block the Rimrock Knight, then you don't have to worry about the double strike damage coming through.
Mm-hmm.
So putting that onto the lifelinker, I think, helps a little bit. But we are still not going to really be able to gain the life, which is a little bit spooky. I would be a little bit afraid to attack here, but we'll see if Sky decides the attack is good here. Does this decide?
Yeah, decides it's good. Swinging in. It's not like the Sentinel can block it favorably.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Going to 6. So definitely we are in the final turns of the game. Either Chantel is going to cinch it or it'll be Sky. We will see who comes out on top. Very tricky math here. Wouldn't be surprised. Would you see what could really make this be clear? I mean, it's kind of hard to tell without like removal or something.
My first thought would be another Embercleave to be able to throw onto another creature, but as we could still have one because we have treasures, but we don't see another attack, so we can't surprise Embercleave anywhere else. We're going to just go ahead and put Luris in front of this Rimrock Knight for a first strike trade. Yeah.
Looks like that's what's going to happen. The Savior is going to play a big part in saving Luris here. Huge deal.
The good doggo saving the cat den leader.
A match perhaps not expected, but wholesome and good. Feels good to see.
And the Luris is going to bring back the Savior next turn. It is really just a beautiful match.
Funny thing to know, this Roiling Vortex has brought... here we go. We have a Skyclave Apparition and 2 flyers. This looks like lethal to me.
They do have 2 reachers.
Well, if
we take out a reacher. Yeah. Oh, I'm like, get rid of the Rolling Vortex. That thing is too scary. But you're right. You're right.
We're playing to win, not to lose. We're playing to win, not to lose. Yeah, this looks like... wow, what a match. Going back and forth. We're going to go into combat, do a little counter business. Not that it makes all the difference, but here we have it. 2 flyers in, only 1 secret reach creature.
But you can't gain life. So,
sometimes you got to make sure your opponents know that fine, they can have the victory, but they can't have the victory by as wide of a margin as they were planning.
Exactly. Yeah. It's got to be a little bit close. And with the first strike damage going through, then the normal damage will take Chantel down to 0. And Sky is the winner of our first match of the night.
Yeah, so that was quite the game. Very much really, really pugnacious back and forth. I'd love to see it, though. The mono white deck in the hands of very good pilot Sky there. Love seeing her recognize love seeing them recognize when they needed to be the aggressor and had no trouble with that. Knew when they needed to play it safe. Very impressed there. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's really the mark of a good aggressive player is knowing when you can be aggressive, when being aggressive and putting your opponent on the back foot is going to give you breathing room. And we really saw that in game one, and is good to see that really get paid off in those later games and see them take it down. All right. That was a great one to start off on. Are we ready to just get into the
Are you ready?
I'm so
speaking of
jittery. Let's
energy,
go.
speaking of the roiling vortex, Beky Bell with all the energy. I love it. I love it.
I had some caffeine before this, so let's go.
Some or all?
I saw a TikTok today that was like, are you taking a lethal dose of coffee? You call it a lethal dose. I call it a lifetime supply. And that's kind of the mood that I'm in. All right. I've been casting some Valorant tournaments too, so the sheesh is a big thing in the FPS community. So I'm here for it. Let's give a good like sheesh to our next players here.
Here we have it. We have Philippa, Silver Quill player on Mono Red Aggro. You'd love to see it. I love to see it. Very, very key cards. Faceless Haven has really done a lot to help get those last bits of damage in that the deck needed. Robber the Rich, of course, always really important. Anax, Embercleave, pretty used to seeing this stuff. But I love to see it. I'm so happy to see Mono Red continue to do really well here. Beky?
Oh, mono red and like I started playing Magic with mono black Eldrazi aggro, went into playing mono white aggro, went into playing mono red aggro. I always will have a special place in my heart for aggressive decks, and there's always just like those few just like chef's kiss mythics and rares that just like bring a whole deck together. There was Glorybringer that was the chef's kiss rare. Now we have Bone Crusher Giant. There's Hazaret, the Fervent, chef's kiss mythic rare. Now we have Embercleave. There's just always these nice things that bring it together, and it's just like all these little uncommons like Fireblade Charger are just, and Anax, Heart Into the Forge. You just have these like kind of scrappy commons and uncommons. I don't know if I see a Hall Monitor in this deck, but Hall Monitor, also Chef's Kiss, absolutely beautiful. I'm in love with that card. Just these really scrappy uncommons that are just being held together by these choice rares and mythic rares that make mono red this amazingly aggressive and huge like power threat in a format.
Yeah, it's definitely one of them that you have to watch out for. Sultai Ultimatum, which Philippa's opponent is playing, is one of the most powerful decks in the format. It's doing a very powerful thing, but just mono red being mono red, and with the tools that it has, is able to pressure that. So we're definitely going to see a match here. I mean, I love to see it. And, Philippa feeling really confident going into this, knows that she needs to secure game one. The Crow and Wards are going to play a big part in the following turns. That's part of her game plan. So we'll see how it ends up. So let's take a look at the opponent's deck list here. We got Maria here on Sultai Ultimatum. Likes that very powerful deck using Emergent Ultimatum to cast super big spicy spells. So we have a Valky, we have Professor Onyx. And a lot of removal for dare I say the mono red deck. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I went into this week also playing Sultai Ultimatum against a mono red deck. Did also throw in extra copies of Heartless Act and Eliminate because I figured I was going to be playing against red. So I get it. Sometimes if you're wanting to play big spells, you got to play a bunch of little spells to make sure you can live into casting those big spells. And we see that Maria here also kind of picked up on that and is throwing in some of these cheaper removal spells to hopefully live into casting the big ones with a little bit of extra help from a little floral friend, Entangled Florahedron. Very excited to see that card in Maria's list as well. And it will be interesting to see how having the Mana Dork / blocker is going to equate into this matchup.
Yeah, so why don't we jump right into it? Let's do it. Mono red versus
Go.
Volatile Ultimatum. We're going to have Philippa on the bottom, looking at a keeper right there. We have action, a little bit of removal, and some more action. And then Maria will be at the top.
What's better than one fervent champion? Two fervent champions.
Always and forever. And that very, very two important lands in Philippa's hand, Faceless Haven and Castle Embereth, sure to secure some more damage for her in this game. Looks like Maria took a mulligan. I believe that there's 6 cards in hand for her.
Yeah, it's always a little bit scary. You gotta mulligan a lot as the Sultai deck to make sure that you have, oh, is this gonna keep me alive for 5 turns? Okay, that's all I need. And if it doesn't keep you alive for 5 turns, it's going back into the deck.
Yeah, so we're gonna see very, as expected, aggressive attack from that Fervent Champion. No reason to hold back. Nothing to fear for at least a couple of turns. So here we go. And then 4 damage coming in.
2 riders off to the races, buffing each other up. A big ol' attack for 4 on turn 2. This is where you want to be if you are Philippa. And I think it's also very interesting to note, this Frostbite normally wouldn't be seen as a very good card, but because Maria's deck is a 1, you can play Valky on turn 2, but also playing those Tangled Forahedrons, because of both of those things, this Frostbite that normally isn't very good in this matchup is actually gonna be able to just be played on turn 2 and take out a blocker and make it so that Philippa can continue to cruise into Maria's life total very easily.
Yeah, we're gonna see another 4 damage coming through. And here we have it, Faceless Haven. Wow, I love to see the mono red player just be aggressive.
Oh,
no,
yeah.
I am. She's saying clearly, I am not afraid of your Shadow's Verdict. I'm gonna swing. I came here to swing, and I'm gonna do it.
I would love to be playing a Shadow's Verdict on my turn 3 every time that I've played against mono red. The most you could even hope for at this point is an extinction event for odd numbers, but if we play this Castle Embereth, do we have lethal? No, we would be doing 9 damage. So not quite, but we do get to have this Faceless Haven come up. And
Well, this is lethal right
lethal.
here. This is 12. So
The
unless
other
Maria has some,
utility
has some
land.
removal in hand, and it doesn't look like they do. Oh my goodness, Philippa with the mono red making us all proud here.
The turn
we
4
go.
on the play win for
Turn
Philippa.
4, I
Wow.
fear nothing. What's a god to a non-believer? And what is a Sultai Ultimatum deck to a mono red player?
We even saw Maria play a god. Valky came down.
Exactly. I love it. I love it. All right, so we're in sideboards here. Let's see.
Get those Frostbites out of the deck. They aren't doing anything for us. We want more attackers and we want more resilient threats. I would be low-key a little excited to see the Ox of Agonis come into play. I think you're worried about a lot of removal happening. Ox of Agonis, not so good against Shadow's Verdict, and that could be a little spooky, but I think otherwise, the Akroan Wars are definitely a good thing. Maria is likely going to be bringing in things like Elder Gargaroth and being able to say, yoink, that's mine now. Pretty nice. Akroan War, definitely a good thing to be bringing in here for the bigger threats.
What are the things that Philippa needs to worry about coming in for Maria?
Definitely the Elder Gargaroths, I imagine. I actually didn't look to see if Philippa was bringing in Rolling Vortex, but Rolling Vortex was good against the last match that we saw. Also good in this match, takes away life gain and says you take 5 damage if you try to cast spells for free. Basically turns off Emergent Ultimatum, so you're not able to have any cheeky comebacks with an Emergent Ultimatum.
Well, we're going to see how that plays out. Got a Charger was the draw for Philippa, which is nice. Smooth out her first couple plays here. We're going to see attack for 3. And what a big pick for the Robber of the Rich. Robin Hood, you are doing her proud. Took that Elder Gargaroth, so
yeah. Speaking of yoinks,
that's gonna be a problem.
Yeah, we're gonna hopefully be able to play that. At least if we're not gonna yoink it off of a Akroan War, yoinking it off of a Robber of the Bitch, definitely not too shabby either. However, this could be potentially a little bit scary for Philippa, as a Shadow's Verdict could come down as early as the next turn, since this Cultivate came down on turn 3 for Maria. So it is a little scary to be throwing down this Bone Crusher Giant, as we could potentially be walking into a 3-for-1.
Well, we'll just have to see. Yeah. Ooh, unfortunately, Maria had it. That cultivate accelerated them enough. But hey, all is not lost. We got a Torbrand.
Torbran, not too shabby, not too shabby. This Rimrock Knight, Embercleave, and a Crowan War. A Crowan War, probably the best thing to be having in our hand right now because usually the follow up to a Shadow's Verdict from the Yorion Ultimatum deck is going to be something like a Pluchronos or something like a Elder Gargaroth. Having something that's going to say, I'm going to take away your blocker is quite nice, but instead it is a Binding of the Old Gods, another removal spell to take down that Torbrand.
Oh,
Hurts
that's
a
actually
little bit.
this is a pretty good draw for Philippa, right? With having a Faceless Haven makes it a little bit
Yes.
harder to interact for.
Yeah, Faceless Haven. I've been playing a lot of the Sultai deck, and Faceless Haven is actually the bane of my existence. I think that card is so annoying because you just, barring having an Eliminate or a Heartless Act, you just like can't really get around doing it. And you're also trying to do a lot of sorcery speed removal and then things like this. But an Emergent Ultimatum coming down for Maria is going to make some decisions a little bit difficult for Philippa.
Yeah, we're gonna see here what's Maria. What problems is Maria gonna lay down?
If I was Maria, I'd just go for the normal three. I'd go for Alrund's Epiphany, I'd go for Kiora the Sea God, and I'd go for Valky. When the only threat is a Rimrock Knight and you're at 14 life and you don't have a ton of things to worry about, I'd go for very normal threats. But we do see an Elder Gargaroth thrown in instead of the Kiora the Sea God. Either way, you'd be getting a big creature. Philippa says, I don't want you to have an extra turn, but you can have an Elder Gargaroth and a Valky. I'm okay with those.
Actually, this is a pretty big deal that the Kiora Sea God was not available because this Elder Gargaroth can be taken by an Crowan War. Feel like that's
very true. Very true.
Matters. That might matter. We'll see. Oh yeah, we'll see. Here we go.
Yoink indeed, and then a little bit of an attack. I imagine gonna go on to Tybalt because it's got to be spooky if Tybalt stays in play for too long. Oh, but instead we're just gonna go face. All right.
Going to face. All right. So Maria has to, at this point, figure out, all right, you got a Gargaroth. I don't really want you on top of that. Maybe we're going to see a tick down for Tybalt. Take out the Gargaroth.
Yeah, I would personally make that play as well. Gargaroth, good in your deck, even better in the aggressive deck of your opponent.
And here we have it. That Gargaroth, easy, just like that. Maria's turned the tables. Unfortunately for Philippa here, I respect the Sultai hustle here, saying, you know what, you got game one, and that's fine. You did your thing. Now let me show you mine.
Very, very true. And it's going to be a little bit rough feeling for Philippa if you're just looking at the two Embercleaves in your hand. Lost the Gargaroth, which would have been the best holder for... Oh, okay. Sorry, I got totally distracted on what I was saying about Embercleave because of Quandrix Cultivator. I think that card, good addition, very good against this matchup, and also a good ramp engine for the Sultai Ultimatum deck.
Yeah, so unfortunately, these two Embercleaves ain't gonna be doing much. Looks like Philippa's gonna try and see about trading. Gotta get that Gargaroth off the field if we're gonna have a chance.
Yeah, that's certainly true. And we possibly will be able to do... Yeah, we're gonna do a little bit of a trade here, but it might be too late. It seems like this is getting to the point where the Sultai deck just has too many things on the board, and as the mono red deck, especially with just another copy of Embercleave in hand, it's going to be really difficult, read in quotes, impossible to come back from this position.
Well, we'll see if that ends up being the case, and how quickly the tables can turn.
They certainly can turn quick, but I feel like once Sultai gets in control of a game, it has a really hard time losing control because all of the cards are just so powerful.
All right, so we had that's definitely true here. That is definitely true. I mean, is there anything that Philippa can draw that would maybe make a difference?
I'm trying to think of something. I feel like it needs to be a flying threat. Okay,
Maybe
so
another Crowan War to snatch that Yorion. I don't know.
yeah, and a Crone War would be good. Something like a Phoenix of Ash would be okay. These Faceless Havens can certainly do work, and there are no blockers on Maria's side right now, so we could do something cheeky with these Faceless Havens.
Well, this Yorion's going to come down and change that status real quick. Most likely, we're gonna see several things leave the battlefield and come back, including another blocker, and we're gonna draw some more cards. Definitely,
And we're gonna ramp some more.
and ramp some more because we're Sultai and we can do that. And there we go. Philippe is gonna decide. All right, I have a better chance in game 3. So game 3 is where we are going to go. We see here any changes to be made? Nope, we're just gonna hope we do better being on the play, which honestly worked out game 1.
Yeah, it certainly helps to be on the play. We saw just how big of a impact Maria being on the play in that game and going turn 3 cultivate into turn 4 Shadow's Verdict really just like brought Maria into control in that game. And that's the thing you want to avoid seeing if you're Philippa. It's going to help a lot also to see Philippa's only playing 2 copies of Rolling Vortex, but seeing one of those will certainly make a huge difference, as it doesn't seem like Maria's deck is playing any enchantment removal to really get rid of that in any sort of linear way.
Yeah, we'll see about that. I mean, it's kind of tough to play enchantment removal well, yeah. I think it's kind of a little bit low on the priority list.
Yeah. Most of the time, you're just like so dedicated to your own game plan that you can't be worried about being reactive to things that aren't just creatures.
Oh, this is a hand kind of tough here. Just having 2 lands and a lot of mana hungry things, but worth it. Philippe has decided, listen, it's worth it. Got 2 1/1s.
Yeah, sometimes you make a risky keep because on the off chance that it goes well for you, it just goes so well for you. And I think that this is definitely one of those hands where if we are able to find another red source and obviously hopefully a third red source, it's just going to be so difficult for Maria to come back.
And there we have it. That second red source. Here we are. We're gonna see first an attack, and then it'll be interesting to see how much Philippa wants to commit here.
Yeah. Also, Torbrand is supposed to be like leader of the dwarves, but honestly, should be leader of the goblins. Torbrand gets along so well with Fireblade Charger. The ability of adding damage onto the Die's ability from Fireblade Charger is just so insane, and I've lost to it so many times.
Oh, wow. This is big. Okay. So this is kind of unfortunately, we did not see a third red source for Torbrand, but this is still going to be a really big attack here.
Yeah, still a really big attack, a lethal attack next turn, and we would need to be playing a extinction event for odd this turn.
Clears the whole board, scenario. And that's the best case scenario.
Mm-hmm. But assuming that there is not a slammed land extinction event, I'm guessing that's not what's in Looter Scooter's hand here.
Ooh, we'll see. Uh-oh. Now, obviously, could have spot removal, which might buy them
a turn or two. Yeah, I'm trying to decide if we had something. Ooh, not those.
This isn't it. Oh no. Well, it looks like nothing else is needed. GG's.
Well, that game 3 went very quickly.
Taking it down with mono red, Philippa Corolla.
It's getting hot in here.
I mean, I think that's just all the energy coursing through your body.
That could be it too.
Because you had all the coffee in the world. So GG's to those players. What a game. We just saw mono red do what mono red does. And even though the aggressive laying down of the you know what I'm saying.
The Wolf Havens? Oh,
nope.
The aggressive putting down of
On
A
Felipe's
next?
side, wow,
Yeah.
I'm embarrassing myself, but I'm just gonna roll with it. I'm gonna roll with it because I'm doing it. No, with Felipe playing to the board. I mean,
Oh,
like
okay.
in spite of the fact that obviously in game two,
Oh, okay. You're
she
talking
got
about game 2. I got you.
yeah, she was punished, but still decided to do that again because recognized that cannot let the game go long.
Yeah. No, and that's
So
certainly true because
I'm
yeah,
gonna make it
game went
happen.
long in game 2 and it's not what you want to see. So, yeah, definitely did a good job of reading how to win in certain matchups and taking it down for Philippa in our second game of the night. We are going to be
Mhm.
taking a little 3-minute break. I did 2
Yeah.
with one hand, but 3-minute break. We will be right back and we will be getting into 2 more matches of a Magic to round out our night.
Yeah, so don't go anywhere. Y'all better be back. We've been
We're
able
just
to get
doing
it.
TikTok dance.
Time dilation is a law of nature. Traveling close to the speed of light is a kind of elixir of life. Because time slows down close to the speed of light, special relativity provides us with a means of going to the stars.
Hello, and we are back. We are doing the thing. Week 3.
We're back so quick. You didn't even know we
So
were
quick.
gone.
I'm glad you are all still here. Thank you for appreciating what we do here and sticking around and spending your Friday night with us. We've had 2 great matches so far.
Oh yeah.
Definitely love to see it. Excited to get into our next games. Why don't we take a look at the deck list?
Let's just get down into it.
All right.
Also,
go.
sorry, I got really excited again.
Again?
It's kind of the theme of the night. I've
it?
just been a constant stream of excitement and caffeine. Somebody told me, they were like, "Oh, I'm like playing." Pretty much everyone that I reached out to was like, "Oh, but like our matchup isn't like super interesting." But this is going back to like me being excited about the metagame going into this week. Is we have so many different decks and so many like chunks of people playing different decks that like everyone was like, "Oh, our matchup's kind of boring and like everyone's going to be playing it." But we haven't watched a like double of them. We might watch another. No, we don't actually watch any doubles of matchups. So people were all like, "Ew, but my matchup is so boring." You all have great matchups and you're all wonderful people. So thank you. You're great. The Xerath Rogues deck is sick. I agree with Skybills that Xerath is an underrated card and should be played more. The difference is you're just choosing, do I like Xerath? Do I like the Merman? Or do I like the cat, Luris? It took me a little while to come up with Luris. Anyway, that's my feelings about this deck. Do love Rogues, though. Big fan of Rogues.
I'm loving the energy, Beky. Honestly, I'm loving the energy. Speaking of high energy people, let's talk a little bit about Skybills. One of the casters of the VML, like you mentioned, is bringing Xerath Rogues, which is a kind of an older but a mixed with a new version of what Rogues used to look like. And yeah, I'm very excited to see it. We got some heaters. I am a big fan of Xerath, particularly here.
Xerath, very cool. And of course, like I pretty much played Rogues all of last season, so I'm a very big fan of the deck. Not playing Luris means that we can also be playing things like Brazen Borrower, which I think is a really great card to be playing against any of the aggressive strategies. Little worse to be playing Brazen Borrower against some of the adventure strategies, but if we take a look at what Skybills is going to be playing against, we'll be able to foretell whether that is going to be a good or a bad thing. And it is Gruul Adventures. So I do think that this isn't the worst. At least it's not Teamer Adventures. I think that Brazen Borrower, not good against Teamer Adventures because you don't want to be returning creatures that have 2 modes on them typically, but returning something that is a landfall creature like Brushfire Elemental or Kazandu Mammoth is going to be good and is going to be able to do some great things for Skybills versus Annabelius.
Yeah, so I'm pretty excited about this matchup. You bring up a really good point about Brazen Borrower being able to bounce certain things. Certainly gonna see it's gonna be a big part because I think one of the struggles with, as a person who's played a lot of Rogues, one of the problems with Rogues is that you can really get overwhelmed when your opponent just is like laying down too many threats and you're gonna run out of cards. But having a card like Brazen Borrower is nice because it has 2 modes. You're not really running out of cards. It just gives you a little extra time. And obviously Xerath being really powerful. So Annabelius here is on Gruul Adventures, though, has heaters of her own. We're going to have Lovestruck Beast, Great Henge, some Chariots.
Love me a Great Henge.
Love me a Great Henge. If there's a Great Henge, I'm near it. I don't know what I'm doing near it.
Yeah, me either. I also do love me a Brushfire Elemental. That might be one of my favorite cards to come out recently. I think that card is absolutely beautiful. It was a little bit overshadowed by the existence of Omnath, but I think that Brushfire Elemental, absolutely great card. Right. Love it so much.
Yeah. Anything in the sideboard here for Annabelius that's really you think is going to make a difference here?
I will be interesting to see Clothis. I mean, I imagine that comes in just the ability to exile things out of graveyards. We do have the Ox of Agonis. I know when I was playing Rogues, I absolutely hated Ox of Agonis. I think I see a Phoenix of Ash as well. And so I think that those 4 cards, when I say 4 cards, I mean 4 copies. I know I only named 3 cards. Are definitely going to be coming into the deck. I don't know about the other ones. It'll be interesting to see what Annabelius decides. But I'm ready to just get into it.
Yeah, let's do it.
It's also kind of weird because I feel like I try to talk a lot about the decks as if people have never seen them. But honestly, Strixhaven didn't add or change a ton of things. So a lot of these decks have been around for a long time. So I keep talking about them like they're brand new and people haven't seen them before. But I believe most people who have been watching Magic understand these decks and know. I know what Rogues is, and I know what Rogues' game plan is, and I know what Gruul is, and I know what its game plan is. But for other people who maybe don't know, trying to still keep the hype up, even though a lot of us have probably seen these decks a lot before.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, the fun thing is especially with the league like this, people bring their own spins on things. They try to metagame, look at what their opponent has been playing in the last couple weeks and make their best guess and maybe even change the main deck. And it looks like that's something Sky Bills might have done. And looking at hands here, though, we have quite a bit of a reactive hand here from Sky Bills. 2 Brazen Borrowers and a Crippling Fear.
Definitely an interesting keep, but has the potential to do some really cool things, especially we're going to probably see this Brushfire Elemental come down, or even the Tangled Florahedron. Brazen Borrower and Petty Theft going to be very good against something like the Tangled Florahedron.
Yeah, it's definitely going to would be able to slow Annabellius down. I think kind of the thing that's worth talking about is what role Rogues really needs to take in this matchup.
I would say, and we've both played Rogue, so we might feel either very similarly or very differently about this. I think that typically a lot of the time you're playing kind of a control strategy. I would be avoiding playing a lot of creatures and kind of be playing reactively until I feel like I have control and I can stick a creature and just like win with one creature, like a lot of control decks have been previously. But of course, it also always depends on the hand that you draw. And sometimes you draw a very creature-heavy hand with Rogues, and sometimes you draw a very reactive hand with Rogues, and you have to play to the hand that you're given.
Well, I think so far it looks like this hand is a reactive hand and is kind of playing well here. We're going to see heads-up play from Sky Bills. Was patient with the first Petty Theft, but choosing and so that she could play the Thieves Guild Enforcer, and now is the time firing it off to bounce that Brushfire Elemental back in hand. Unfortunately, the Thieves Guild Enforcer falls to a stomp, but that's okay. What is not okay, though, is Skyville's land situation might be a bit of a problem in these next couple turns.
Nice to have the 2 black sources for this Crippling Fear in hand. Not so nice to have only 1 blue source for the Into the Story and the Brazen Borrower, but hopefully that will be something that shapes up a little bit nicer to Sky Bills in the following turns. We have the Soaring Sky Thief as an option and the Petty Theft part of this other Brazen Borrower, but we do see that Sky Bills has it in her mind that her plan is to commit a creature, have one creature be attacking, and then the other things are all reactive to kind of stave off a lot of the aggression from Annabellius's deck.
Well, unfortunately here, that looks like the plan. Like you said, we're going to swing in with this Soaring Thought Thief, but did not draw another land. Super important because I believe this makes 2 land drops that Sky Bills has missed now, and is not able to play a Brazen Borrower. So it's not really able to get ahead here. Just definitely going to be trying to stem the bleeding.
Yeah, and then it's interesting also, we do see the Shark Typhoon in hand. We could have cycled it for 1 and drawn a card to see if we could hit the land drop, but we do see Sky Bills is prioritizing potentially using the surprise 1/1 Shark as a blocker instead of hitting the land on curve. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out for Sky Bills as well.
Well, Sky Bills is looking down a really big attack here. This looks like 3, 6, 10 damage that Annabellius is swinging. Annabellius came with these hands.
She really, hands in the form of cats and elementals.
Listen, ain't nothing worse than being slapped in the face by a cat. You know it, I know it, we all know it.
Yeah, we've all gotten scratched by a cat. If you've been around a cat and you've tried to pet one, we've all had one that just was like, I'm not dealing with this right now. And we've all felt that wrath a little bit from almost any kind of animal, honestly. I've had it with dogs, rabbits.
Oh, this is a rough, I mean, Annabelle is not playing any games here and is taking advantage of the mana deprivation kind of situation that Sky Bills has found herself under.
You gotta do what you gotta do.
Did draw another land from the Shark Typhoon, from Cycling Shark Typhoon, but unfortunately it was a tap land. So we're seeing this situation be really dicey, buried under threats at this point.
Yeah, it is Then drawing the tap land feels a little bit bad that we didn't try to do it on our main phase, but the Bone Crusher Giant coming in, immediately crewing this Eskus Chariot so that we are able to attack for another huge hunk of damage, but we're gonna kind of hold priority going into this attack phase with this Brazen Borrower. If we were gonna return anything, I imagine we'd probably be returning the Eskus Chariot. It feels a little disastrous to let this go to attacks if we do plan to bounce the Eskus Chariot, because now we're allowing it to make a copy. Unless the plan is to return the token so that there isn't actually... Oh, that could be interesting, actually. That was something I didn't think of in my original little caffeine-fueled rant.
Well, we're going to see Petty Theft be cast. It's just a matter of on what. How can we mitigate damage from this point? What can we do? What can Skybills do? Tough decision, clearly, because they are definitely agonizing a little bit over what to do.
Yeah.
Gonna go to blocks first, though.
A lot of it has to be using this crippling fear naming cats, probably. Those cats cannot stay in play, so I imagine that this Petty Theft is going to just be doing the absolute most to make sure that things are not coming back down and being... I personally, the Brushfire Elemental seems like a dumb play, but because it isn't able to be recast because there's no red mana available, it seems like it would be a permissible play in my mind, though I think that the Eskus Chariot saving us the life sadly has to be the play because we've missed so many land drops.
Yeah, so we see Annabelius bringing Skybills down to 7. This Crippling Fear, I imagine, is going to be cast with the utmost quickness to kind of to reset the board.
Yeah, maybe thinking a little bit, but yeah, gonna have to just say, oh, okay. I've totally forgotten how Crippling Fear works until it was played just now. I didn't realize that you name it and everything else gets -3, but I thought you named what you used to. I guess it makes sense. It costs 4 mana. It should be better than how I imagined it being in my mind. Very good. All right. Absolutely sick play from Skybills, wiping out the entire board of Annabelias with a single Crippling Fear, naming Rogue and keeping the Soaring Sky Thief a safe. Spot Thief, not Sky Thief. Woo!
Well, we're going to see here again, having some serious mana troubles still. On 4 lands, has to cast this into the story now. Might not be a deal, but we need lands and not a 1 and not a 1. Oh my goodness. Not a 1.
It's okay. We can cast another into the story next turn.
Well, we're looking at quite, Annabelius, even though that Crippling Fear did quite the damage to the board, has so many threats at this point. That Great Henge coming down is such an important part of this game at this moment, because I mean, Skybill's sitting behind a counter, but was trying to find lands. And unfortunately, didn't find a blue source. And now this is where we're at.
Yeah, this is... At least this Lovestruck Beast is never going to be able to attack. The Great Henge means that both of those Edgewall Keepers are going to come into play as 2/2s. So we don't actually have a way to make a 1/1 to enable this Lovestruck Beast to attack. So at least there's that. But this Eskus Chariot and these cats are still quite frustrating to be having to deal with for Skybills here. And Edgewall Keeper gonna go ahead and come down.
Yeah, a bit of a nombo, but honestly worth it, even though the Great Henge making them 2/2s still worth it. You draw cards. Yeah. Oh, hello.
Oh, well, that's gonna make this game be a little bit of an easier sway in one direction. The Evercleave, a draw for Annabelias off of these Great Henge triggers. And now I imagine it's just a step of going to attacks and figuring last few things out.
Yeah, we will see here. If Skybills plays both Soaring Thought Thieves, that's lights out if I'm thinking correctly.
I'm inclined to agree. I imagine we have to hold up the Heartless Act and Heartless Act, whichever one gets the cleave held. And then I guess we're alive for another turn. So there's still hope. I don't know how many copies of Crippling Fear Skybills is playing, but we could potentially draw another one of those and still be in this for a little while.
I'm definitely appreciating the pain.
Oh, there's a disdainful stroke over
There
there.
is a disdainful stroke. So definitely appreciating the patience here from Skybills, recognizing that she's in quite the position, quite a dangerous position, and just deciding to kind of play it safe. Better to take two than nothing. But interesting though that chose to counter it instead of wait to see which it lands on. But
Yeah. I guess potentially thinking that this Heartless Act is going to be a little bit more useful later. However, I kind of wish it wasn't being held on to. Since we have the Great Henge in play, Heartless Act is getting so much worse the longer it sits in Skybill's hand.
yeah,
Because
and
all of these creatures have counters.
yeah. Here we
Sorry, I
are.
cut you off there.
No,
We're
no,
both
you're
thinking
fine.
the same thing.
Yeah, we are. We're on the same wavelength. We are on the same wavelength.
My wavelength is just going a little bit faster because I've got so much caffeine right now.
a little bit faster. I don't know.
Faster? Is that the I don't know how to say what I'm thinking.
That's okay. Well, we're gonna see Skybills just say, okay, you put me to 1. I have no other ways to get out of here. First game is gonna go to Annabellius. We're in sideboards now, looking at Annabellius's sideboard. Game 1 went very well. What are the things that Annabellius should be prioritizing game 2?
Yeah, we saw the Phoenix of Ashes and the Ox of Agonis's coming into play, as well as the Clothis I mentioned as we were going into this. Those 4 cards likely just getting slammed into the deck. Now we just got to worry about what to take out. We know that Skybills is playing things like Brazen Borrower. I kept wanting to say Bone Crusher Giant, and I was like, no, the other adventure creature. So some of the more expensive spells are going to be a little bit worse because they aren't able to stick onto the battlefield and have as big of an immediate impact when Brazen Borrow exists in your opponent's deck. So we see the Embercleave coming out, as well as possibly, I imagine, maybe some Kazandu Mammoths, just kind of like trimming on some things that are like, these are feels bads if they get returned to my hand.
Sure. Yeah, I don't know if we'll be able to see Skybill's side, but that was definitely probably I expect to see some more removal come in on her end. There was only 1 Crippling Fear in the main board of Sky's deck, so has 2 in the sideboard though.
Okay, yeah, I imagine that you're just throwing those all in because that's just, especially against the landfall creatures that only get big really on Annabellius's turn, the ability to use a Crippling Fear to take things out like Brushfire Elementals and Kazandu Mammoths is going to be just such a huge impact.
Yeah. Oh, we are gonna see what Skybills does here.
Yay, I imagine that, yeah, those Crippling Fears are probably going to be something that comes in. Things like the Eliminates, I can't imagine are too bad. I would personally rather have Eliminates than Heartless Acts if I was choosing between one direction or another, but we might just be saying that it's all good. My dog also very excited, making some noises behind me. What's up, bud?
The dog approves of the sideboarding choices. Love
yeah,
that.
Yeah. He's very vocal about his opinions on Magic the Gathering cards.
Honestly,
I'm trying to figure out what this God of Fright is. Menace 4/5. I don't know what the other side of it is. That doesn't look like a card that I've seen played a whole lot, but would have been interesting, but is not going to be relevant as it does not come into Skybills' deck.
Yeah, we're gonna see a quick mull to 6. Unfortunately, that was a 1-land hand, but this hand has some potential. We have 2 actual lands, and then Aghanim Awakening has a land on the back. 2 Drown on the Locks, very important. But and a Soaring Thought Thief and Into the Story. I think the big thing missing here is not really a lot of enablers, but maybe there. Oh wow! Bottoming a land. Yes. Okay. The energy, the vibe.
Skybills got a whole lot of faith in this scry from this Temple of Deceit, throwing back keeping this land on top, though. We do need to get to some amount of lands, but we, after turn 2, can definitely afford to be playing some tap land energy. So yeah, we're probably just going to play the Soaring Thought Thief and hope that it is going to enable these Drown in the Locks to put Annabellius into some frustrating situations.
Speaking of frustrating situations, we have 2 Sentinels on the battlefield. So Skybills will not be getting any damage anytime soon. Will be probably, like you said, fueling, trying to fuel the graveyard here. Important card to note, Snakeskin Veil.
Ooh. I do like that card.
Are we gonna
Very
see
cool. Luckily, Soaring Thought Thief is an attacks trigger, is not a damage trigger, so being able to attack into these sentinels, it's gonna mean that some damage is coming back Skybills' way, but at least we're gonna be able to put some things into Annabelius' graveyard. Not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah. So we're gonna see a double block here.
Just in case.
Just
Can
in
never
case.
be too careful.
Who knows? You know. Nothing before damage, looks like. Or is it? No. We're back at it. Holding up still 2 mana for Drown Locks, or as we saw from the draw, a Thieves Guild Enforcer. Send a little bit more into the graveyard. So kind of nice draws. It doesn't seem like we're going to struggle. Hopefully Skybills gets that 4th land. I think that's the big deal there.
Yeah, there is a little bit of a concern on Annabelius' side as we have no red mana.
Yes, the only red mana that we have is what can be produced with Sentinel, but is very likely to get into a point of the game where it's gonna need double, you know.
Mm-hmm. All right, the Edgewall Innkeeper for Annabelius' side does get countered. We do have the potential to either, play this Bone Crusher Giant or the Scavenging Ooze, but we choose to play the Bone Crusher Giant and get a big body onto the battlefield for Annabelius and start getting in some damage, hopefully.
Yep, we're going to see that. A little bit of swing and 3 mana. Unfortunately, Skybills once again missed that 4th land. I'm going to need... we're having a little bit of mana issues on both sides because still no red mana for Annabelius, so no need to really worry about an Embercleave. Are we gonna... We're seeing an attack for 6. Doesn't look like any blocks are happening. Skybills is just gonna take it. Fear nothing. No problem. Oh, Scavenging Ooze gonna come down. I don't know about letting that resolve. We'll see about that.
Yeah, and I mean, Skybills doesn't know it, but the Snakeskin Veil in the hand of Annabelius means countering this is certainly going to be more successful than trying to kill it later. So definitely don't want something that's going to mess with the graveyard on the battlefield ever. Thankfully able to draw that 4th land, and now we just got to decide if we are being continuously aggressive or starting to hold some things back.
All right, so looks like two creatures were milled off the Soaring Thought Thief. Has 2 into the Stories, so not the worst position here. That Thieves Guild Enforcer does have that touch.
Mm-hmm.
Gonna see a Brushfire Elemental come down. No land to make it bigger, though. Just the 4/3 coming in, and okay, here we are.
Oh.
Double attack. I'd love to see it. Staying aggressive after the life total.
Yeah. When you have an Embercleave in hand, I definitely think that this is the correct play from Annabelius. You're honestly, if you have the Embercleave, you're just like so close. If you can just get Skybills down to like 6 life, it's so much easier for you to just like squeak out a win off of a cheeky attack. So I definitely like this continuous aggression from Annabelius.
Well, here we have perhaps what we've all been waiting for. Xerath was drawn from the Into the Story, so we might see Big Daddy come down. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
There we go. There we go. This is what we came to see. I'm sure Hayu's probably in the stands, very excited to see Rogues make such an awesome play. No, that's her favorite deck. Did you know that?
I did not know that, actually.
Yeah,
it makes sense.
Loves Rogues.
Hayu seems like a Rogues person.
She is definitely. Doesn't she seem like a Rogues person, honestly?
She really does. That's not, that doesn't, no flame.
No flame at all. No flame at all.
No flame.
Genuinely, like, yeah, I'm sure
with as much love as possible. But Xerath gonna allow us to get a gold span dragon out of Annabelius' deck, and now we have 2 4/4s on the side of Skybills. Yeah, so this is pretty big here. Kind of a really important. Annabelius filled up the board. Xerath did get that 4/4. It's kind of we're in a dicey spot. A little bit of a dicey spot. Can go either way from this point. Yeah, honestly, I personally feel like Annabelius is just like 1 red mana and having 2 red from the Jaspara Sentinels and any red source away from just like having an extremely explosive turn, that it's just like low-key so scary watching like Skybills make the This play feels so scary to me personally, knowing that the
Oh.
Embercleave is in hand, but the Snakeskin Veil is going to be able to catch out this Eliminate, making it a little less spooky.
Yeah, and that Snakeskin Veil putting a counter it means that Heartless Act's also going to be a dead card in hand. Should Skybills draw it later.
But at least this Goldspan Dragon has some flying and is able to fly over most of the creatures on Annabelius' side. There is reach for Jaspara Sentinel, but will not be reaching up to block the either big or tiny dragon, depending on your point of view.
Well, I mean, it makes sense though that there was no blocks because without red access to lands, like with access to red mana from lands, those sentinels are the only way that Embercleave is going to be cast, if at all. So we're going to see 6 come in from Annabelius. Is this the final turn of the game? We'll see. To block or not to block. To block or not to block.
This is so. Oh no!
Oh. Okay, we're blocking.
Okay, we're blocking.
We're throwing the Xerath under the 6/6.
Sometimes you gotta block a 6/6.
Sometimes you gotta block a 6/6. Annabelle, just be patient.
This is a moment where I wish I could ask Skybills, like, did you notice that like an Embercleave could be played? Did you smell it? Were we on the same page?
It's just a scent. It's just like it's like a spider senses. You just gotta
develop my Embercleave sense is tingling.
All right, so we saw an Escus Chariot come down, make that board a little bit bigger. Skybills has at least one more turn before things get dicey.
At least one more.
What are the options here?
Well, I don't think it would be spending 4 mana on Into the Story personally, but I could be wrong. I would be trying to hold up like as much mana as possible to cast Petty Thefts and Soaring Thought Thieves, but we see that Skybills wants to hopefully draw into some removal spells. We did draw into a Heartless Act, a Drown on the Luck, and a Thieves Guild Enforcer. Oh, we do have this Crippling Fear. That's quite nice.
It is very nice indeed, because now Goldspan Dragon will be Goldspan Dragon and Love Struck Beast will be the only ones left. And so that Love Struck Beast won't be able to attack. Huge draw. Definitely worth spending the mana to on Into the Story. Definitely saved Skybills here.
Yeah, I might just be a little bit of a wuss. That was a very, in my mind, a high risk, high reward play. I usually play a little bit. It did work out, but I usually have a little bit of a safer player typically.
Oh, but how could we forget? Okay, so we still have an Escus Chariot that can swing, but no red mana to cast it. I mean, just like the brick wall just came down for Annabelius.
The brick wall in the form of Crippling Fear.
Woo! We're gonna have a game 3. All right, so game 3, Annabelius is like, all right, that didn't work. We got to figure something else out.
Yeah.
Hopefully, being on the play makes a difference here.
It should make a big difference for Annabelius's deck. Trying to figure out what Skybills would want to do. These are definitely some spicy cards in the sideboard of Skybills. But I think I'm pretty happy with the changes that Skybills made. Potentially maybe going to Disdainful Strokes on the play, being a little bit more or on the draw, being a little bit more reactive when we're not able to commit to the board as quickly.
Yeah. So we got quite the keep there from Skybills. 3 Heartless Act, a Soaring Thought Thief, and Into the Story. Nothing is going to be living on Annabelius's side of the board, I expect.
Yeah, at least this time we have 3 lands and not 2 lands. So hopefully we won't be missing land drops as often as Skybills has. Didn't go too bad for Skybills last game. Certainly nice. But this hand seems a little bit safer than the previous ones.
Yeah, and on Annabelius's side, does have access to red mana from Shatter Soul Smashing. So some options here. Has Edgewall Innkeeper, has Stomp. looking at potentially casting a Goldspan Dragon later. I do like the play here of just going ahead, making sure you have the red mana and playing that Agile Keeper.
Yeah, I mean, we saw how really unfortunate it was last game for Annabellius to not have red mana. So many moments where Annabellius really could have just pulled ahead in the match, but wasn't able to because of the lack of a second red mana for an Embercleave. And now we have a double red spell in the form of Goldspan Dragon. Likewise, we see Skybells taking a note from the last game saying, Snakeskin Veil, I don't want to have to deal with that. I'm going to be using my removal spells main phase.
All right, the draw is a Clothis, and that is quite the draw. Indestructible God, going to put a damper on Skybells on the Rogues plan, just in general, not really going to be filling the board up or under a lot more pressure to do it. We're going to be losing one card every time. Yeah, and huge, and does damage, and gains life. Really great card for against Rogues.
It really just does it all, and the one of finding its way into Annabellius's hand so that she is able to hopefully take a little bit more control of this game.
Oh, I think we just saw an Ox go into the graveyard. Now, granted,
yep,
probably means Annabellius will not be targeting her graveyard, I imagine, with Clothis, at least for a little while.
At least for a little while. At least long enough for us to get this Ox into play. Which could potentially be what's happening right now.
Let's see. We would have had 2 from Soaring Thought Thief, 2 from Thieves Guild Enforcer, and then 2, 4, 6.
Yeah, okay. I don't think we have enough.
There might be one that I missed.
There could be a Fabled Passage. Oh, there is. But I still don't think that we quite have enough. Maybe Annabellius is finding that out as well.
Also, I think the doesn't have a second red source for Ox of Agonis at the moment.
Oh, yes, that is more likely it. But we
exile a land?
A land for Clothis, yeah. Clothis? I don't how do we say that word?
I say Clothis.
Okay. I say it that way too.
Clothos.
Okay. Cool. I think that's how I've been saying it.
That's how I do it.
Every time people say it as Clothis, it kind of makes me uncomfortable, like the word moist. I don't like how it sounds.
I resent the fact that was said on air and in my presence. Anyway, moving back to the game. Skyville's Heartless Act took out that mammoth, trying to really working hard here to make sure that Annabellius does not do what she did last game and overwhelm Skybills with threats.
A nice heads-up play also. I like this into the story on the main phase now that we see that Annabellius has a lot of ways in the form of Ox of Agonis and Clothis to take care of things in their graveyard.
Cling to Dust on the top. That's big.
Yeah, hopefully, I imagine that the idea is that if this Ox of Agonis doesn't come into play this turn, we want to be able to get it out of Annabellius' graveyard as soon as possible. It looks like we will be able to do that, assuming that we don't. We could potentially play the Ox of Agonis off of this treasure token from the Goldspan Dragon.
Which would be huge. So
would be huge.
That Goldspan Dragon, for all the work that Skybills has done, Goldspan Dragon has come in and kind of undone it here. The combination of this god and Goldspan Dragon has been huge. And we're going to see Ox of Agonis come in, another threat, and it's going to refill Annabellius' hand. What a turn.
That's literally everything. Got rid of a bunch of cards, shrunk the rogues, is a 5/3 body, and drew us cards. Absolutely all-star. I know, I feel the same way about it, Apollo. He's behind me whining.
So looking at all the options in Skybill's hand, we have Brazen Bar, we have Cling to Dust, which is totally a dead card now unless Skybills chooses it to use it on her own graveyard. And looking at quite the board of threats here. Cloth is very close to becoming active here.
Oh, yes. Very close. And that is going to be a spooky situation for Skybills for sure. This Cling to Dust just coming into the hand a little bit too late. Now we're kind of really stuck on the defensive side. This Brazen Borrower could potentially put back a Goldspan Dragon at the start of combat, could remove the Ox of Agonis from play, but I imagine that we're probably going to be using it to save ourselves some damage from Goldspan Dragon and potentially Clothis as well.
Yeah, we'll see what happens here. Clothis is going to trigger, take a creature, put Skyville's down to 10. So this is very close to lethal. This is lethal if Skyville's doesn't use some of these cards in her hand.
Mm-hmm.
All
Oh,
right.
okay.
How much damage is this? 8, 12.
It's 9 if we return Goldspan Dragon.
Oh, goodness. Well, we gotta return the Ox here. It's the
Ooh.
biggest thing, right?
It is the biggest thing, but I think Goldspan Dragon is just like the scarier.
Might
Oh,
just
this
be
is
considering damage here. Skyville's
yeah,
is a 10, and this is a lot of damage no matter how you do it.
yeah.
And
But we either
Prisma,
go to 2 or to 1, and Clothis does 2 damage, so like that doesn't really matter. So I guess yeah, going for the damage save is the decision that Skybills makes here.
all right, so we're gonna see that attack come in. Clothis got deactivated just in time, and not a moment sooner, not a moment too late there. And
Mhm.
Brazen Bar, I imagine, gonna run under that Goldspan Dragon
Yep.
with a quickness.
Yeah, I definitely would be making that decision as well. Save our life total as much as possible, putting us to 6. At least we're not going to die to the Clothis activation next turn. I know, this is so intense, huh?
Yeah, we see some options here. I mean, Skybills is in a really bad way. Gruul has just been able to continuously overwhelm with threats. Cling to Dust might be able to exile. Looks like it's probably going to end up exiling a creature here for some life, or maybe a card. I don't know what Skybills could draw.
I was going to say a Crippling Fear, but that really doesn't save us either
This is
as
a
the
board
big
of 4/4s
threats.
and 5/5s.
At
All right.
least we could get rid of the 1/1 so that Lovestruck Beast can attack, but there is another Lovestruck Beast in hand, so even that really doesn't do it. The Drown in the Lock potentially. There's only 3 cards in the graveyard of Annabelius, so Drown in the Lock really isn't able to answer anything other than this Lovestruck Beast. Oof.
Yeah, we're in a definitely tight spot for Skybills. Looking at lethal.
Looking
Weighing
at
her
lethal in a
options, yeah.
bunch of different ways.
Yeah, in a bunch of different ways, absolutely. And that's nothing to say for whatever could be on the top of Annabelius's deck.
Mm-hmm. Many a haste creature, some Bone Crusher Giants.
Mm-hmm. And Goldspan Dragon's just been doing Goldspan Dragon and Clothis here. We've seen just absolutely dominating this game, giving Annabelius the mana that they need to cast more threats. Clothis just managing the graveyard so well. Just been an absolute heater of a game for Annabelius here.
Yeah, and that
Off the
Ox of
top,
Agonis as well, just turning it in Annabelius's favor for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, and as we kind of just mentioned, on the top of Annabelius's deck is a Bone Crusher Giant, allowing an extra 2 damage on the stump, meaning only 2 damage has to get through on Annabelius's side for Annabelius to take this game.
Yep, I imagine we're gonna see relatively quick, and then we also have a land, so Brushfire Elemental is gonna get bigger. You know, when they said Gruul really does throw down.
Really does throw down. Throwing hands with some different things this time though, for sure.
Oh yeah. Well, what can we target here? We're gonna target the Lovestruck Beast. Like you mentioned, there's so few cards left in Annabelius's graveyard that doesn't do much, but it is enough to take out the Clothis here.
All right, looks like we will be able to alleviate quite a bit of damage here, actually, which is quite nice for Skybills, but for how long can we do it?
I think it depends on blocks here.
Yeah.
And oh no. Oh no.
Oh, I mean, we can't block the Brushfire Elemental, so that was actually the only block that we could make. Brushfire Elemental can't be blocked by creatures with power
You were right.
1 or 2. So,
well,
regardless.
Looks like Annabelius has lethal in hand. All they have to do is cast that Stomp.
Yep, I agree. Unless Annabelius chooses to play it in a safer way here.
Yeah, could be worried about a counter or something like that. Rogues tends to have those sort of things, so I guess better the devil you know than taking a secure route here. Looks like, but as we see this into the story, having to cast it for the whopping gigantic amount of mana, 7, and yeah, Annabelius is like, okay, this is the time. Gonna fire off this last 2 damage. GG's. Annabelius is going to take this game 2-1 over Skybills with Gruul aggro.
Whew. Yeah, that's a rough one. All right, do you want to come say hi to the people? You were making so much noise. Come here.
Hello. We are now joined by our good friend Apollo.
Come here, bud. Yeah.
Apollo approves of Gruul aggro.
Oh, yeah. What do you think of that game? Tell the people what you think.
Share with us your knowledge.
Yes. Yes. Okay.
Yes, I agree.
He says, I will translate for you all. He said that was very well played by both players, but Goldspan Dragon is one of his favorite creatures in Standard right now and is happy to see the Gruul deck take it down, but very well played by both Skybills and Annabelius.
Yes, absolutely. Cannot find fault. Why don't we get to our final match of the evening? We have Emma Skyward on Teamer Adventures. Again here, classic deck. We have clothes in the sideboard. We have Lovestruck Bees. We got all the Adventure Suites and Elder Gargroth in the main. I'm excited about that. And then Alrund's Epiphany, which is a newer card.
Definitely a good card. Love taking me some turns. And Teamer Adventures, yeah, you know what? You love it. We've seen it lots. And here it is again, still sticking around as most of the adventure style decks have. They're going to stick around until they rotate. Eldraine abilities and cards just so strong and work very well with some of these other little landfall friends and gonna continue to just be a nuisance. I personally am so excited to see Bonecrusher Giant rotate. I cannot wait. That card has just been so format defining, and the ability to not really play any creatures that have 2 toughness just because of Bonecrusher Giant's existence has been so oppressive that I'm so ready for that card to get out of here.
Well, unlike you saying all this sacrilegious stuff live, I can't believe it. Honestly, who raised you? I love to see Teamer Adventures, and apparently so does Emma. She's played this deck for a couple weeks at this point. Feels very confident in it, and I think there's something to be said, even if there are new cards and there's flashy things to do. There's something to be said to sticking with what you're comfortable with, sticking with a deck you've played before and won before with, and yeah, so definitely appreciate that here. So let's take a look at what her opponent is playing, though. We got Natalie Blackburn on mono red aggro. So this is going to be quick versus beefy, as I like to kind of call this matchup. Mono red, of course, trying to get under, being the quick one, and then playing against Teamer Adventures can sometimes get under it. So we'll see. We got Frostbite, Bonecrusher Giant, Torbrand, of course, cards to watch. Pretty important in this match. Beky, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that Torbrand is going to be one of the most important cards in this matchup. You want to have as many of the cheaper creatures as possible out on the battlefield and then just slam a Torbrand and be able to trade up with a lot of the big, beefier creatures that are in the Teamer deck. I think that a Crone War is going to be a really big deal in the sideboard games, as well as something like the Phoenix of Ash. That's a little bit of a recurring threat, some haste, and also going and attacking in the air, something that the Teamer deck doesn't really deal with as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have definitely Natalie's plan is to get on the board as fast and as aggressively as possible. Doesn't have to worry about silly little wraths, but just trying to get under, around, over, however, this Lovestruck Beast, which we know is a problem. So why don't we jump into that?
At least Natalie's deck. Yeah, we'll jump into it. While we're jumping into it, I want to highlight that Natalie's deck is playing Hall Monitor. I was very excited to talk about it earlier, but that red deck wasn't playing Hall Monitor. At least this deck is playing Hall Monitor, meaning that we will be able to use the ability of a creature not blocking on Hall Monitor to say that Lovestruck Beast can't block. Don't have to worry about the beefy creatures if we just say that one can't block. Now we attack with all our little creatures. Hopefully that makes things go a lot better for us.
So we have, it's switched here. So we'll just explain on the bottom, we have, it's not switched. I'm silly me. We have Natalie Blackburn on the tops, coming in with a fervent champion, very aggressive, not worried about this Edgewall Innkeeper for right now. And then we have what's looking up to be a very good hand for Emma. Got Lovestruck Beast waiting in the wings and a Great Henge in hand.
Yeah, quite possibly the fastest you can play a Great Henge is with this Lovestruck Beast on turn 3. Gonna be a nice little value engine for sure on Emma's side.
So we have another attack here, kind of coming for 1. Not as much damage as you want to see from the mono red player.
Yeah, surprising that we don't see. I mean, maybe now we'll see, things like a Fireblade Charger and not hasty 1/1s coming down. At least we're hoping to see if we're Natalie 2 1/1s. But a Frostbite, not too bad also. Taking care of Edgewall Innkeeper. That's very good to get rid of that before this Lovestruck Beast comes down and get rid of as much value that Emma could have as possible.
Yeah, but that Lovestruck Beast is going to come down 5/5. There's not really a way to deal with that in the main board outside of like what you mentioned, Hall Monitor, but it's still on the it's still in the way, and it's going to make that Great Henge be it's going to come down next turn, be a problem. We saw an Annex come down on the battlefield. Not so scary in the face of a Lovestruck Beast though. Emma coolly just gonna stick to the plan, play a Great Henge.
Yeah, good plan to be sticking to, getting this Great Henge on the board as soon as possible. Not even gonna attack, say, I can play a defensive game because I know eventually my larger creatures are just going to overwhelm you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what are we looking for? What is Natalie really looking for here?
Now is the time to play an Embercleave.
Yeah.
If there was a time, it is now. Throw it onto this Anax and hope for the best. Torbrand would also be good, but we see that the Faceless Haven was the play for turn, and that's not a third red source to be able to even play Torbrand if we wanted to.
Yeah, that's a very good point here. Looks like Natalie's doesn't have the Embercleave, unfortunately, which is very bad news, but has a Bone Crusher Giant instead. So swinging in anyway, which I appreciate. Gonna have a safe block here from Emma. Makes sense, right? You have you have a Great Henge. You're gonna gain the life back. What are you worried about, really?
Yeah, exactly. Gain some of the life back. At least we have this Annex in place, so we get a Satyr out of the attack with the Fervent Champion on Natalie's side, still allowing us to hopefully be able to play a Embercleave on a later turn with some big ol' attacks. Gonna go ahead and thinking about putting this Obosh into hand. Yep, gonna go ahead and do that. Obosh gonna be very kind of terrifying next turn if we're able to play something like just throwing down the Brazen Borrower on this turn.
I'm actually unsure if Emma has. Emma does have the second red source in hand, so yeah, you're definitely right about that. So once again, this is a pretty important turn for Natalie. Has to play through. Doesn't know it, but has to play through. Saw it coming. Brazen Borrower has a lot to deal with.
I imagine at this point you maybe can sniff out that it's a Saw It Coming. We are playing with open deck lists here on the VML, and we know that the 2 Foretell cards in Emma's deck are Saw It Coming and Alrund's Epiphany, and we could have cast the Alrund's Epiphany last turn, I believe. I think that there's 6 mana here. So if the Alrund's Epiphany had been foretold, we would have been able to play that last turn. So maybe thinking, it likely isn't an Alrund's Epiphany and is a counterspell, and playing accordingly.
All right, so we're going to see a big swing here, but Emma's going to deal with it as you would, blocking the
Bone Crusher Giant with the Lovestruck Beast.
I don't know what's wrong with me today.
No, you're okay.
and then sending that Anax back into hand. So stopping some value there. Oh, there's the Alrund's Epiphany we were talking about. And the Obosh, which is a 4/6, very, very chunky boy.
Very big indeed. And we do have this Brazen Borrower in the wings now. Gonna come down likely at the end of turn unless there's something that we must counter. Yeah, Anax good enough to counter. We'll say we saw that one coming, and Anax will go straight to the graveyard and not even get a chance to come onto the battlefield. Oh, but we had another one.
Just kidding. There's another Anax there. So, all right, Emma's kind of in a little bit of a position. It's a big board that she's looking at. But
Yeah.
I think has the mana to cast this. I think has the mana to cast this Alrund's Epiphany, but decides
Yeah.
instead to just play the Brazen Borrower, draw another card here. Gets a land, not the most exciting thing, but
Yeah, if we're looking at ways that you potentially lose while having a Great Henge in play as soon as turn 4, this could be the way that you potentially lose. Not drawing any new creatures off of the Great Henge and continuing to just draw lands is certainly not what you want to ideally see off of having this Great Henge in play.
yeah, absolutely. Definitely now in a position where it has to play it safe. Not really safe to swing. Don't know what the draw is for Natalie, but can activate Castle Embereth or Faceless Haven to make this swing even bigger. We'll see how much Natalie's willing to kind of throw against the teamer deck.
Yeah. It's an interesting position to be in because sadly, if we do activate the Castle Embereths, we aren't able to get big enough to actually push through Obosh. And we see Natalie with a scoop to the large creatures on the side of Emma.
Yeah, we're going to see going into sideboards here. Unfortunately, Natalie's just game plan just couldn't really come together in the face of, understandably, the Great Henge and a 5/5.
Mm-hmm.
So Emma's going to be boarding in some things here. What do we think are the best cards in this matchup?
Vivian, definitely a really good card and a really great value engine for a lot of the more expensive creatures in Emma's deck. So I like that as an inclusion. I would be a little bit scared of maybe being able to handle some of the early game plays. So I do actually quite like this Prismari command. I think that is a good inclusion as it has a deal damage ability to take care of some of these smaller creatures. Kind of just getting rid of, I would have taken out, that was a red cap melee. So no, that belongs in there. I saw the red cap melee and I thought that it was maybe potentially Rimrock Knight. And I was like, that probably isn't good. That can't block. We want to block.
Yeah. All right, we are going to go into game 2. Both players are ready. Let's see if Natalie can make a comeback. Going to be deciding who's on the play. Certainly Natalie's not going to pass up that little bit of an edge. Looking at hands here, quite the hand from Emma.
But at the same time, you can't not keep this.
Oh, I would never mull this.
Never ever. The best card in standard right now, and you've got 3 copies of it in your hand.
You got 3 copies of it? Yeah. What are you afraid of? Nothing. No one. Never.
What was your phrase earlier? What is God to a non-believer?
Yeah, exactly.
Bone Crusher Giant, definitely a non-believer.
We have 2 camps. We have gods and we have non-believers. Bone Crusher Giant is in the non-believers. All right. So speaking of, we have other powerful cards. Robber the Rich coming down, going to take what appears to be a land, which is something that can't argue with Emma's going to want at some point. The stomps will stem the flow of damage here, but still gonna really want some lands, so dealing with the Robber Rich is pretty important. Hall Monitor is gonna come down. Your personal favorite.
I do like 2. All right, now we're getting spicy with it. Definitely still just gonna stomp this Robber the Rich and, like you said, stem as much damage as possible. But an attack for 3 hasty damage here, still not the worst. At least this Kazandu Mammoth can be a land. Yeah. Not the worst. And at least we still have 2 stomps in our hand because that card's good.
Ooh,
I'm not upset about it.
I mean, there's no reason to be. Oh, we're going to see Edgewell Innkeeper being played instead of holding up a stomp.
I mean, worst case scenario, if it gets a little dicey, Edgewell Innkeeper can block, though you don't normally see Edgewell Innkeeper do much blocking unless worst comes to absolute worst. We do see Edgewell Innkeeper get stomped quite often in the standard format, though, and that is no stranger to this moment.
Oh, so we have now missed the 4th land, but we are going to we see Emma pivoting here into trying to develop a board state in the event that looks like she doesn't draw more lands, can only, ping things for so often. Kind of has to build a board state here.
Yeah. But this is a part where Hall Monitor is really nice. If we do want to just hold on to our board state, we could just potentially say, okay, activate Hall Monitor, attack for 2, but your Bone Crusher Giant can't block.
Well, that doesn't matter to Natalie. She went in with all three, not really concerned about the. Are we about to see an Embercleave here, or are we just trying to get in as much damage as we can?
Could be an Embercleave or a Rimrock Knight, yeah.
Oh, there we go. We have
A
a
Bone Crusher
Rimrock
Giant
Knight.
would have also worked.
Yeah.
To even that out a little bit. But yeah, Rimrock Knight, Boulder Rush, and then the normal Rimrock Knight play. These Kazandu Mammoths do work as lands, at least.
Yeah, we're gonna see it be but it doesn't have a. Is definitely restricted. Needs something. I think. What do you think the plan is here? Being at 8 life, you have 2 stomps in hand, but getting to 5 seems like a really important part of this game.
Yeah, it really does. At least we're only 1 mana away from it, and if we are able to put this Elder Gargoth into play, that hopefully isn't the worst position for us to be in the world, though Hall Monitor is going to make it really difficult for the Elder Gargoth to get a lot of value.
Yeah, that's a good point here, but we're going to see Emma stomp the Rimrock Knight. Natalie's only going to get in for 2, but is, like you said, Emma's at 6.
Mm-hmm.
And we did not draw a land. That is not what Emma wants to see.
Yeah, we were definitely hoping to at least be able to throw the threatening Elder Gargoth into play, but it doesn't look like we're able to do that now, and this could potentially be going to a game 3 here, as this is quite a sticky situation. Hall Monitor will be able to say whatever Emma throws into play can't block, so we have a guaranteed attack for 5. It only gets really sticky if we also have another hasty creature in the form of a card in Natalie's hand.
Yeah, that's a good point here. So Emma certainly recognizes the danger that she is in, but just kind of has to play with the resources that she has, you know? So Bone Crusher Giant's going to come down. There is a 4th land from Natalie, and certainly there might just be a Hall Monitor activation. Might see your favorite card shine here. Instead we're going to see a Soul Seer and just say, Natalie's going to swing in for lethal.
No.
All right, so game 2 goes to Natalie Blackburn, able to get under, take advantage of Emma's sort of mana situation and get under the threats there.
Yeah, and even as we saw, while we were able to like find the Kazandu Mammoth as tap lands, we weren't able to double spell because all of our mana was green mana, so we couldn't do a stomp and a petty theft in the same turn. And while it seemed like a hand that we all pretty much agreed was a snap keep, it just wasn't quite good enough to really pull Emma into a favorable position in that game.
Yeah, I think it also kind of factors in. I think Emma was on the draw as well. So
yes.
Just a little bit too slow. So both players are ready. We're going to go into game 3 of our final match of the evening.
Woo!
Who's going to take it? Sheesh! Who's going to take it?
Who is going to take it down? We do have Emma on the play. That is certainly where you would prefer to be. This hand a little bit dicey, and we do see Emma choosing to throw it back to Auron's Epiphany. You don't really want to be taking turns. You want to just get to turn 5 against the mono red deck, and you got to make sure that you live to that point. This hand, a lot more steady. Going to go ahead and throw a forest back on the bottom, it looks like, and say we're good to go. I maybe would have thrown back the Great Henge, though, personally. The more that I look at this hand.
Yeah, it's hard to, I think it's hard to tell. It's a difficult decision to make because you really want, it just provides so much value that if you do draw a Lovestruck Beast, if you do draw something bigger, that it can kind of put you over the edge. So I understand the kind of the conflict there. I think it's really hard to say. Obviously, looking at the hand, it's not like she has much to power it, but her early game plan seems to be pretty set here. To try to manage the board as much as possible. We see her get an island, and then hope to draw into something that will then make that Great Henge castable.
Yeah, we did also see Natalie did take a mulligan down to 6, so that also both of our players taking a mull to 6 on this game 3.
Yeah, we're going to see Natalie come in for 1. Emma's not wanting to use her removal on that Fervent Champion as of yet. Fireblade Charger is the play from Natalie. Doesn't look like there's a second thing. So it's kind of like an awkward use of mana.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Emma here. I also would pass and be trying to use this red cap melee on something a little bit better than one of these 1 mana threats
Mhm.
from Natalie. Especially, it feels so bad to use a red cap melee on something
Wow.
like a Fireblade Charger.
Mhm.
This is
This is, I mean, this is
okay.
kind of crazy, right? Like,
Yeah.
and Emma's just saying, all right, I'm going to use my mana as efficiently as possible here. I got 5/5s that I really want to cast, and it looks like you're not really pressuring me enough to make me worried about that, which I think says that's such a signal, right, to the red player.
Mhm.
Just like, yeah, you have 1/1s,
Yeah, it's got to
and
be such. It's such a signal to the red player while also being like also so terrifying. Like, oh, you care that much, but this red cat melee. Good thing that we kept it because
yeah,
what's red cat melee really good at doing? Killing Torbrand
killing
Thane of the
Torbrand.
Red Fell.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. This attack's about to be just completely just destroyed here. Only 1 damage is going to get in, as opposed to I think
Ooh.
6 would have been. And we're at
Yeah.
5. We're gonna have 5 mana here, no problem, and cast a gold span dragon because why not? So now
A
we
good
see it,
little
Emma,
dragon.
in the fully in the driver's seat. Patience paying off here. The keeping of the hand paid off. Might see that great henge be cast.
Yeah, now it's hard to decide. Do you want to play the Obosh and get in a bunch of damage, or do you want to get in the thing that allows you to gain some life? It kind of just depends on the kind of player that you are, I think, at the end of the day.
Yeah, and we have seen Emma just, I believe, in game 1 and game 2, trying to prioritizing protecting herself from damage when it makes
Mhm.
sense. So I would not be surprised to just see the Great Henge come down and get back some life total. This Robber the Rich is going to come in, make a little bit of a dent in it, but unfortunately, not quite big enough. Didn't get anything off of the trigger there.
Mhm. Right. This is going to be all right. We do see that Emma decides to play this Great Henge, going along with what we've said previously, and now it will be an interesting decision to see if the Obosh is something that comes into play, or if
Mhm.
it's going to be the Brazen Borrower,
Well, I
or if we
imagine,
want to cycle to Triumph. We have a lot of choices.
yeah, a lot of choices. I think if you're gonna cast the Obosh, you would have done it before the attacks to get in more damage.
That's kind
But
of what
I
I was
understand
thinking.
waiting to kind of, maybe waiting about concerned about something there. I mean,
Mhm.
that makes sense. It's not like the Brazen Borrower can do much blocking.
Ooh.
Oh, what a draw! Hello. Oh my
Ooh.
goodness. Oh my goodness.
That's a spicy one. I mean, it's not that
Yeah.
spicy. We talked about how good a Crone War would be in this matchup, but being able to steal the Obosh and the odd numbers working in the favor of Natalie Blackburn's deck is so big. That is
Yeah.
such a good card to have played right now and yoinking the Obosh from Emma's side of the board. This has got to be a little bit spooky now.
Yeah, I mean the this Vivian coming down, making a creature kind of helps a little bit. But yeah, we have that's interesting. So Emma played the tap land instead of
The Bark Channel
the
Pathway.
Bark Channel Pathway, which I think would have let her and I guess if she'd chosen to swing, she could have played the other Goldspan Dragon there.
Mm-hmm.
But playing it safe, and I think that makes sense. It seems like Emma is more on the safe side, and I respect that because hey, look, this worked out for her so far.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely looking down quite the board here. You know what I'm afraid of at this stage?
What are you afraid of?
I'm afraid of a freaking Embercleave on an Obosh. That's not really what I want.
Previously in our last matches, I've always been afraid of Embercleave. I'm still afraid of Embercleave here. I'm with you.
I mean, honestly, yeah. All right, so we have a Stomp taking out the Brazen Borrower. And what I imagine is going to be quite the swing here.
A big ol' attack. It also would have been. I've been scared of this Castle Embreth as well. With conjunction of the Obosh, the ability to just like basically. I mean, you're already doubling it with Obosh, but you have 2/1/1s in play, so you're basically quadrupling the damage that could be coming out of your creatures. It's just insane.
Yeah, we're gonna see some blocks. Don't know. I can't see the card that Robert the Rich got. Doesn't look like there is an Embercleave.
Doesn't look to be the case here.
But there is something here. Ah, I see. We're going to have another stomp take out the Goldspan Dragon before damage share, bringing Emma to 6. Doing quite that, Chronolore doing quite the number on Emma's board.
Oh, yeah. That was backbreaking. Luckily, Vivian's passive is going to allow us to get multiple creatures off of the top of our deck.
Yeah, love to see this. Love to see the way that these two cards are working together. Just able to kind of, just able to kind of
Really
rebuild
sift
what was
through.
lost here.
Yeah. And I like this, the minus on the Vivian, so that when we cast this Goldspan Dragon, we can go search for another creature to put into play as well, really buffering up the blocks on our side of the field to hopefully keep us bolster our defenses over here a little bit. And we will be getting Obosh back on our next turn, which thank goodness.
Right? And has plenty of mana here still. Can choose to stomp and cast the Bone Crusher Giant, which looks like that's what's going to happen. Going to take out that pet. Maybe that Pesky Rabbit the Rich has options.
That's the one that I would want to get rid of.
It's got quite the pain when you're not playing it.
Mm-hmm.
When it's being cast against you.
I want to keep my spells. I don't want other people to have my spells. Kind of same with the Akroan War. Stop stealing my creatures. I want to keep them.
Oh, that's right. The Goldspan Dragon has to attack.
It does have to attack, unfortunately, and will die to the Akroan War 3rd activation, but worse things have happened in the world. If we want to cast this Petty Theft on, we would have to have done it then, but now we will not be able to because our treasure no longer taps for 2 mana.
Right.
But that's okay. I think all of our creatures have much toughness and we are doing okay.
Yeah, we see Natalie has no cards in hand, just the adventure spells over there. So in looking at both players at low life here, it looks like this is going to be the final turns of the game. And granted, we're seeing it. You know what? I appreciate this. I respect this. Swinging in with the team. Don't care that you have big fatties. I'm going to go out like a red player should go out.
And doing some swinging. These Fireblade Chargers will be able to do a little bit extra damage here.
Yeah, can take out, I think, the Bone Crusher Giant and the Brazen Barber. That's still lethal coming back. Yep. Oh, choosing to go after the Obosh here. But as we see, good games given from Natalie, and we're gonna see that concession.
Yeah. All right. Eventually, the teamer deck, if you play long enough, just gets to do too many big things with too many big adventure creatures. I have to scoot away from. I'm like watching this close. Like those like streamers that just like get really into a game and they're like right here. That's me when I'm casting. I just like get so
I do the same thing. I'm like this the whole time. I'm like, no, interesting. Yeah. And then I have to remember, oh wow, the mic is right here. I should probably back up so I sound like a normal human. But yeah, no, great games from our players. We saw that hand that was kept there with the Great Henge ended up paying off. I mean, it just provides so much value, just so much value. And since the red deck wasn't really providing any of that pressure, I mean,
sometimes that's just how it shakes up. And we know that the teamer deck typically has a little bit of a leg up, playing a lot of just like big value creatures against the red deck. Makes it really hard for the red deck to really get on its feet and have the aggressive game plan that it needs to have. And that's just how it went. But very well played by all of our players on stream tonight. Good games all around. We're only in week 3. This may feel a little bit bad to people who are 1 and 2, but people who are 1 and 2, if you win out, you can still go on to being into the wild card stages and still go on to being into the top 8. So all hope is not lost. We are still early in our season and there's still hope for all of our players. So keep your head and chin up. You got this.
Yeah, definitely. I share those sentiments. I still haven't played my match and I'm X and 1. I fear nothing. And
fear nothing. Good advice from Ellie tonight. All
Fear
across.
nothing, just go. The way that Felipe played red, that's how you should play your life. Commit, and just do it. Yeah, so good games from all of our competitors there. Thank you to our sponsors. That's it for us. Thank you, NRG. Thank you, Channel Fireball. And thank you, Wizard, for supporting us, making this prize pool what it is, and having that invite on the line is so important. So thank you, everybody. Oh, and good night from Apollo.
Good night, everybody. Thanks for watching.
Make sure you follow us and tune in next week.
Oh, I'm whacking you in the face. I'm sorry.
All right.